Okay. Let's see. Can everyone hear me? Share screen. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of these questions. Let's just see. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. Just message in the chat that you can hear. Okay, nice. Great. We'll get started with these questions. And if anyone let's see, do we have any group consults this week? Okay, Gabriel and Michael. Gabriel's here. And Michael. Okay. So if that's the same Michael, then we've got two people. That's good. Okay. Nice. And let's see what else we got here. All right, so let's start from the questions. I'm currently reading Gundry's Plant Paradox. It seems you enjoy his work on lectins very much. There are, however, three major differences between what he and you recommend. Dairy products, he allows for South Europe casein A2 products. You eliminate everything, nuts and seeds. He allows, you don't. Okay, that's true. Millet. He allows as a resistant starch, you don't. Could you address your take on those differences? Yes. So my differences from Gundry, let me explain the background of why I have differences with Dr. Gundry. Dr. Gundry believes that lectins are actually the sole cause of problems, and when he does his research, he's looking into mainly like lectins and things like that. I think there's a lot of problems in food, and people could be sensitive to a lot of things. So, for example, in dairy, there's casein, and I think that's something that a lot of people are sensitive to, and that you're going to get in South Europe casein A2 products. Doesn't matter what where the cow's from, or if it's a goat or whatever it is. If it's milk, it's going to have casein. Every milk, to my knowledge, has that protein. So he doesn't believe. I don't think. I don't know if he he holds that casein itself as the problem. He might hold some other things as the problem. And there's other milk proteins as well that people can be sensitive to. I'm actually sensitive to whey as well. And that's less common, but definitely it exists. And definitely other milk, dairy proteins as well. So that's as far as dairy goes. Same with nuts and seeds. I think that, first of all, I don't not allow nuts and seeds. And there are some people who, I'd say the thing that I tell most people not to consume is dairy, because there's the most potentially problematic constituents in there. But I don't tell people to not consume necessarily nuts or seeds, just because, it all depends on the person's level of sensitivities, the type of sensitivities. So it's not a blanket ban. It's just something that I say, like, it has a potential. Any plant-based food has a potential, and there's different severities in degrees in the potential in which they can cause problems. So wheat, it has the most potential out of the plant-based foods, and that's why the most people are sensitive to wheat. Nuts and seeds have less potential, but what I tell people is to be careful and don't, it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just that you want to pay attention to it, exclude it, and see if your health issues improve. I personally can't eat nuts and seeds, and that's not something that the only seeds that I do best with are hemp seeds. But in general, I just don't do well with plant-based foods. As far as millet, it's the same argument goes there. Grains in general are going to have more of a potential to be problematic than nuts and seeds. And so, yeah, I just think that I've tried all grains. Some are better than the other. Millet might be a bit better, but if you're having problems, you want to try to get out grains, and then you can, add one back in at a time and see how you do. Could you? Okay, so that's my answer to that. Okay. Hey Joe, this question is from Jake. As I have been improving my sleep and diet, a big issue I cannot seem to get rid of is my tendency to experience information overload. Okay, that's completely normal, Jake. Whenever I try to learn new tasks, I become immediately overwhelmed with how many steps go into that task and burn out when I am trying to learn a new skill. Okay. I don't remember names and details very well at all, which is a part of it. Are you familiar with these symptoms of information overload, and is there anything I can do to fix it? It's really ruining my life and holding me back. I've had to drop out of school because of all the data thrown at me when I read a book or listen to a lecture. Feels like too much, and I'm not able to piece together information without a conscientious process that takes too much of my time to be manageable. Thanks. Okay, thanks for your question, Jake. This is it's a complex question, and I'm going to break it down into different elements. We actually do cognitive testing before we have people work for us. We think it's important. Certain kinds of cognitive abilities are important. And what I found is some cognitive abilities take a hit when you have health problems. So if you're having health problems, one thing that's going to take a hit is your working memory, your motivation, your ability to synthesize information and think in the moment. If you're having brain fog at that time, it can harm a lot of things. But I'd say the working memory, as far as brain capacity, is going to be most affected by people with, these kinds of health issues, brain problems. Let's see. There's again, anything could take a hit, but the two biggest ones I say are working memory and attention. So if you can, if you have very good attention, that goes a long way. And so a lot of times, if people with problems, like with school and stuff, they're not able to focus very long because if you're able to focus, then you're able to, even if you're not amazing at retaining information, if you just spend enough time, you'll be able to manage. So focus and attention are massive. The other thing is working memory, like I said. So what you need to do is you need to figure out what element is causing you problems. And the way you can do that is by taking testing and seeing which tests are your weekend. So Cambridge Brain Sciences is a good place to take tests, and you can see which areas you're weak in. And if there is a test called digit span, and if you're weak in the digit span test, then that means your working memory is probably not very good, and that's something you want to improve. So in general, we hire, like if we're hiring, what we look for is 7 or over for the digit span, because especially for a managerial position, if it's not managerial, then we're more lenient. We could do 6, but when you have to juggle a bunch of stuff, your working memory needs to be pretty good. We actually prefer something like 10, but again, we look at the whole candidate, and if they're over 7, then is 7 or over, then it's something that we pay attention to. It's a candidate we'll pay attention to. So I'd say if you're 6 or under, that could definitely explain some of your issues with learning, and because working memory does have a role in overall intelligence, and it's one of those things, again, for the 4th time, that goes down when you're having health issues. So do you have health issues? That's what I need to know. Do you have brain problems, right? If it's just learning and you're trying to learn faster and you don't have brain issues, then we need to kind of parse what area you're having problems with. And again, I can't go into every area, but my 2 best guesses are working memory and attention. And the way to improve working memory is through dual NBAC. And if you use TDCS while at it, it'll make it go faster on the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. But that's a whole nother animal that we could talk about a different time. That's probably a decent way. The other thing is nicotine or galantamine. So the acetylcholine supplements, or pharmaceuticals, are going to be good for improving working memory. So nicotine is probably a very good one. It's definitely a very good one. And so you might want to look into nicotine. And then for attention, that's another whole area. You're going to want to look at what's causing the attention problems. Is it, do you have low dopamine, or what else could there be? Do you have too much glutamate? Sometimes, that's why attention is something that suffers often when you have health issues, because often dopamine will go down, glutamate will go up, and then it's just, it puts your brain into chaos. So that's something that, you can kind of tell me on you could put it in a group consult. That might be your best bet, because it's I need to know more information. Can I use the results I paid for from Ancestry.com instead of 23andMe? Yes, you can, depending on what plan you are. For the older plans, we had unlimited uploads, and for the newer plans, there's only 1 upload. So for the newer plan, you're going to have to, it would take us too much time to try to figure out how to, so if you haven't uploaded your 23andMe file already, then yeah, of course. What supplements? For some reason, I thought you already tried to upload 23andMe, and now you're trying to also upload an Ancestry file. So you would only be able to upload 1, but you're not going to have a problem if you just want to upload the Ancestry file. What supplements would you recommend for days I ruin my circadian rhythm? Okay, that's a very good question. So if you just want supplements, I mean, there's natural, there's non-supplemental ways, like for example, making sure you get bright light when you wake up. And so that's, I think, very important. If you just want supplements, though, forskolin and Icarin. So Icarin and forskolin are going to be very good in the daytime. You want to take it right when you wake up. And the Icarin is going to help you entrain your circadian rhythm when you get light. So you have to pair the Icarin with light, and it's going to entrain your rhythm faster. Icarin, we have a post on Icarin, and it has the same mechanism of action as Viagra. That's why people use it for libido. So actually Viagra would be better because it's more direct and focused, but I'm assuming you're not going to want to take Viagra. So Icarin is just a lighter supplement, and it could help. Forskolin is good because it helps stimulate cyclic AMP, and that's important to jumpstart your circadian rhythm. The other thing you can do is, again, besides the light, is like do push-ups in the morning and eat a lot of protein in the morning. And for night, you could, make sure the room is extra dark, or if you wanted to take a supplement, it would be something like melatonin, or agomelatine is going to be a bit stronger. I've carefully followed the self-hack lifestyle for 1 year now. Lectin avoidance diet, perfect circadian rhythm, daily sun, CERT supplements, and TH1 dominant supplements. As long as I follow the program, I feel 10 times better. Okay. And I have almost no symptoms or complaints. However, the supplements are expensive, and if I stop taking curcumin, CBD, and antioxidants, I feel inflammation again. Do you recommend I take them forever, or are they just a Band-Aid, and are there more steps I should take to dial down my immune system and inflammation without relying on daily supplement stacks? So I could tell you, look, our bodies are not as strong as we'd like them to be sometimes, and my own body, if I stop taking supplements for a while, it's not going to be good. And again, the reason is because, for example, you want like antioxidants and things like that. But I have to be on a strict diet, and that's something that I'm pretty open about. And I could be more lenient if I take a lot of supplements and some THC and other things. But I'd rather just often, and sometimes I do stray. I get into my periods of where I stray, but right now I'm in I'm pretty strictly following my diet. I don't really eat much plant-based foods or at all. So number one is I would look at how many plant-based foods you're eating, because if you're still getting inflammation, then that means you're probably eating stuff that you're still getting inflammation from, but not that much. And so when you started the program, just cutting out a lot of the foods in the lectin avoidance diet, you probably felt a lot better. But I'll give you an example. Even leafy greens, I do notice this. I do notice a slight detriment in my performance. Now, for most people, 95% of people or more, maybe even 99%, leafy greens is going to be very healthy, and you want to eat it. So I'll recommend it for most people. But you could be one of those people who are just reacting to a bunch of different plant-based foods, because plant-based foods are immunostimulants. And then you have to take other things to dampen your immune system. Now, if I stop taking supplements, I don't think it's healthy actually to just eat meat and chicken and maybe some seafood, right? That's not like a healthy diet. You're missing nutrients, you're missing antioxidants, you're missing fibers, and a lot of the plant-based foods also have natural anti-inflammatories as well. So I think, eating a lot of vegetables, maybe some fruits, these things are healthy in general. And if you stop eating them, you're going to want to make some of the things that you're missing up in supplements. And so I take high maize to get fiber, because you don't want to not eat fiber, of course, and most of the high fiber foods I react to. So the answer is that number one, I would if you wanted to take less supplements, I would start to look at your diet a little more carefully. But again, you don't necessarily want to be draconian. If I'm with people, I'm more lenient and I just take more supplements, especially THC and CBD and curcumin, stuff like that. And so for myself, I do have to take supplements. I mean, curcumin has been a stable mainstay. CBD is good. I take that. I've been taking that consistently. And other supplements are good. Now, not all of them, you might be able to simplify, but there is, I think, for some people like myself and yourself as well, it could be that you do need to take these things for prolonged periods of time. And I wouldn't see it as a curse because they're also anti-aging. So, even if I have these, weird brain issues, if I stray from my diet, I also look younger, or, in a lot of ways. I don't have like signs of aging. And, I feel healthier. Like my body works better, much better than the average because I do these things. So even though it is, we have to take these supplements, I think there's benefits, longevity benefits, anti-cancer benefits. Like I'm not really that concerned about cancer because, a lot of these stuff that we're taking, like CBD, people are going to be taking if they already have cancer. And, some people say miracles, whatever. I could be a bit skeptical sometimes, but for prevention, these things are much better. So I think there are good things to take anyway, and I wouldn't despair too much. How do you know if Boswellia is good or bad for me? I would look at whether you're Th1 or Th2 dominant. In general, it's going to be better for Th1 dominant people, and you're going to find that out if you're Th1 or Th2 by going to the blog and just typing in Th1, Th2, you'll get some of the posts, or you could Google it. I don't think it's going to necessarily be bad for you if you're Th2. It's just that it's going to be better for you. And since you don't want to take 100 supplements, you're going to want to take the 5 or whatever 10 that are best for you. So I wouldn't see it as bad for you. I would say just not the best for you. How to rebalance the limbic system. The limbic system is the emotional center in the brain, and it's responsible for a whole bunch of different systems in the brain. Not only emotion, but it's the most prominent. It's responsible for executive function, which includes working memory. It's responsible for memory and emotional balance and then all the fatigue and wakefulness and motivation. Basically everything that kind of a lot of high performing, a lot of things that you need to perform well are going to be based in the limbic system. So when my limbic system wasn't working, I was not able to perform, and I never I just didn't do anything with my life for a while. I mean, I was in school, but I was just kind of like chugging by. I think I was without the problems, I was a pretty smart guy. With the problems, everything was a very big struggle. And, just getting through school and things like that, everything was a very big struggle. So the limbic system is really important. Now, how to rebalance it? You have to figure out what is the cause of your limbic system problems. So like I said, for the answer for the person who had the other brain problems, limbic system problems can be caused by stress, lack of sleep, inflammation. Those are going to be like some of the biggest ones, right? If you're not sleeping, but I'd say the top two are going to be stress and inflammation. And so definitely the two most common causes. And to highlight the role of stress, there's a condition called PTSD that most people know about, and that's when you have a very highly stressful event, a traumatic event. And that condition is basically destroys, it really dysregulates the limbic system, and you start getting all of these problems that the limbic system is responsible for. So that's kind of like an extreme example of what, anxiety or stress can do to your limbic system. PTSD, and then you have all these problems. PTSD is often more long-term, not always, but it really wreaks havoc on your limbic system. And then from the inflammation, basically your limbic system responds to cytokines, and a whole bunch of different receptors start getting changed. And, they're both going to have similar symptoms often. So sometimes it's a little tricky, does this person, is this person having a lot of inflammation, or is their main issue anxiety or something? And that's causing the limbic system problems. And then the limbic system problems are causing all these other problems that they're experiencing, like fatigue or whatever. Often it's a mix of both, because if you're getting inflammation, then you're also going to have anxiety as well. And so with me, I was getting some inflammation, and that was causing a whole bunch of these problems, right? And including anxiety and stuff. But I did find that, even if you reduce the inflammation, kind of reducing your stress levels or the overactivity of your nervous system is going to be helpful for your limbic system as well. So those are the two big ones. And then we get into a whole kind of, we go down a rabbit hole. What's causing your inflammation? That's why, this is why we have a group consult. And then if we have time, we can look at that. So if you want to go deeper and say, here are my symptoms. You think I have inflammation or anxiety, or too much stress, or just an overactive nervous system, or, it could be other reasons, right? Are you not sleeping enough? What else is happening? So with the group consult, I can dig deeper down. Next, you said that carbs can increase anxiety. What are the mechanisms behind it? And how to eat carbs without having anxiety? Carbs give me anxiety, but I cannot stop eating them because I get very weak. So number one is it could be through inflammation. Carbs cause, they often have inflammatory components together with them, and then that can cause anxiety. Now, if it has nothing to do with that, glucose is kind of, it could be stimulating itself. So if you eat glucose and your system is naturally on the edge, you could just have kind of too much, just too much sugar. It's going to turn into sugar, and too much sugar is going to just stimulate certain parts of the brain, like glutamate and things like that, and that could cause anxiety. So one, it's going to be dose dependent, and one is going to be from inflammation. If you eat a tiny amount of carbs or a small amount and you get anxiety, then it's not from, the fact that it's carbs. It's something along with the carbs. Now, if you're getting the other thing is hypoglycemia. So if you eat a lot of carbs, then you have this blood sugar rush, and then you get hypoglycemic. So that could also cause anxiety. Both of those things can raise glutamate levels in the brain. You cannot stop eating them because you get very weak. I think you have a metabolic problem then, and that's something you have to fix. Again, go to the group consult, and I might be able to help you out there. But if you're getting very weak, you want to go with a higher protein diet. That's number one. Higher fat. You're probably not eating enough calories. But again, go to the group consult so that I can know more. Knowing that most people with CFS have hypoglycemia, in your book, Lectin Avoidance, you list several carb sources, but many of them have high glycemic index. What kind of carbs should I eat if I have CFS? The answer is You can try raw honey. It's number one. Not everyone does well on it. And high maize. Those are the 2 carbs that I recommend if you have CFS. Otherwise, I don't recommend carbs for CFS. What are the best recovery methods for a recreational dose of MDMA? So if you take MDMA, you're going to get a depletion of serotonin in the following 2 days. So you want to get, in the immediate term, you want to take 5-HTP for serotonin. If you're talking about, I think that's what you're talking about. If you're talking about like a very high dosage, and yeah, I think that's what you're talking about. Okay, so we can go to the next one. Do you think soluble fiber is important for overall health? What sources would you recommend? Okay. Sorry. Okay, mixed up the order, sorry. I'll go to that one later. Hey Joe, I know you do research with sites like PubMed and etc. In order to gather info from your posts, I was wondering if you recommend any books or text to anyone looking to learn more about fundamental and advanced human physiology or how to acquire knowledge like yours. I'm sure there are ones more credible than others. Honestly, the best way to learn is to do. So I'm a believer in learning by doing, and my knowledge really got enhanced actually writing a lot of articles, and that's why if you're someone who wants to learn more, you can try to research something in depth. Now, again, if you're really lacking a lot of information, I would recommend watching YouTube videos. So, YouTube videos are they have great YouTube videos now, and I would say that's the best way. It's, they show you pictures, and they have drawings, and for me, that was the most influential in the beginning, kind of getting to a state where I can then be able to read studies and understand it. And then after that, just reading a lot of studies. And, if you're at that point, we'd probably pay you to write articles if you have like a good grasp of the fundamentals. In your opinion, and by the way, just go back, everybody learns differently, right? So if you're someone who learns more by text, then by all means. But I found the best way was videos, and then just writing articles, really, or doing my own independent research. But doing research while writing articles is a good way, and you could make a bit of money on the side. In your opinion, what are the best ways to control stress? Honestly, I'm a big fan of Zen philosophy. It's not an easy philosophy to comprehend. It actually takes a while for some reason. I mean, it's very simple, but in other ways, it's very complex, right? And the fundamentals of Zen are basically that you can't control anything. That you shouldn't try to change anything about your life, because when you get stressed, if it's not from, stress is going to be from physiological causes, and I address those a lot, with supplements, things like that, lowering inflammation. But if your stress but there's a lot of stress just from being a person. And my theory of stress is that there's and again, I'm going to come back to the Zen part, but my theory of stress is that the brain, humans have a lot of different desires. and we kind of desire a whole bunch of things at the same time. We desire, we want, money. We want desirable, mate or whatever. We have all these things. We want to be successful. We want to learn a lot. We want to have all these activities that we like doing. We want to have a lot of fun. We want, we have all these desires, and most of these desires, or all of them, are natural, right? But often they conflict with each other. So you might want to do one thing, and it's going to conflict with something else. So you might want to make a lot of money, but it's going to conflict with dating, right? That's classic. If you want to make a lot of money, you're going to have to work very hard. And if you're working 12 hours a day, you're not going to have a great dating life. That's part of my problem. When I'm like, let's say, looking to date, I have to think of very, very efficient ways. I'm pretty picky, and it's like I have to be extremely efficient with it, because I have to make the choice. Do I want to spend my time dating, or do I want to spend my time building a company or companies and, helping people and, making great products? Where do I want to spend my time? And, so there's a conflict, of course. And I have to, whatever you choose, it's going to cause some level of unhappiness. If you choose work, then you're going to feel lonely, right? If you choose dating, let's say, or, your relationships with people, I would say even more broader, just relationships with people, you're not going to be as successful, right? And so a lot of people have a balance and, things like that. But often it's very hard to balance. It's something that if you really want to be very successful, if you look at the most successful people, they're all workaholics. And they prioritize work over dating. Probably the most successful person around is Elon Musk, right? He's working 90 hours a week. His dating life is not very good. So I think stress comes from, competing desires, and that there's this tension, right? It's like, I want X and I want Y, but I can't get both. And then you're just stressed about it. You're kind of overwhelmed. And so Buddhism is a general philosophy that tries to get you to let go of desires. Because if you don't desire anything, then the tension between the different wants goes down, and then your stress goes down. So the less you desire, the less stress you have. Now, it's in the nature of humans to desire. So it's not it's not a reasonable ask of someone to say, just stop desiring, because it's our nature to desire. We'd basically be saying, go against your nature. And so basically, there's a certain amount of inbuilt desires that, and most of them are competing in one way or another. And especially in the modern, the modern day, things are more imbalanced, right? Just our whole, once upon a time, people worked less, and, they were farmers. They got to do a bunch of things, like, for example, exercise while working. It's just like a more natural lifestyle, I feel, and people were just less stressed. You kind of just got set up with someone, and it's just like, you were on the path that was, it was, everything was a lot clearer, I feel. The modern day world is more chaotic. Our values are very different. It's like money and dating is like way more competitive, and especially, I don't know, just I could think of from my own perspective, for men, it's, at least in LA, I don't know. But anyway, I feel like there's a lot of things, in the modern environment that makes us unhappy, especially capitalism in general. And I'm fine with capitalism. It's just that you have everybody trying to sell you something, and everybody's trying to market something, and basically marketing is creating desire, right? And so we're saying like, you need to get this, here's why you need to desire this. And so the whole economy is built on getting you to desire things. And so for that reason as well, we're going against, we're basically just furthering desires. You watch a TV show and you see whatever, this person has a lot of money and they're traveling the world and like, I want that life so badly. If you're just like living in a small community, 20,000 years ago, you don't really know anything else. You're just in that community all your life, and that's that. So, so I think just the whole modern environment and culture and things like that create a stressful environment, especially America. I'd say America is the most, desirous country. And again, I'm not against desire. I'm just saying that that's what causes the stress. And so what meditation does is basically, and this is why meditation is important in Buddhism and with yoga, it takes you out of your mind in some way, because you start desiring when you're when you're in a desirous state, and we're always in a desirous state, but when you have all these conflicting desires, that's when you're going to be the most stressful. And also when your attention is like very scattered, right? So if you're scattered, you're going to start thinking, I want this, I want that. Meditation kind of puts you in a blank state where you start to value nothingness, right? And when you value nothingness, it kind of just calms, it calms the brain down. It calms down the brain's desires for different things. Like after meditation, you don't start thinking like, I need to do this, right? If you're meditating correctly. So meditation is a very good way to dampen desires. After I meditate, I don't feel like I want to work or do anything, really. I don't feel like I want to, just anything. I feel like the natural desires just goes down. And again, that's just my own experience. So that's where, let's say, meditation and Buddhism come in. It's trying to reduce the desires. Zen is a form of Buddhism, but it's the reason why I like it more is because it more acknowledges the reality, whatever situation you're in. So in Zen, the student goes to the master and says, I've got a problem. I'm desiring. And the Zen teacher, basically the teacher tells him, well, that's the problem. The problem isn't, you're kind of compounding the problem when you're doing that, because if you think you have a problem, then you've got a problem in a way, right? If you say like, I got to get rid of these desires, it's another problem you got on your hand, right? Before you had X number of problems, and now you have X plus 1, and that just compounds the whole situation. You're like, now it's like, when you're stressed out, you're like, okay, I got to reduce my stress, and then you're stressing out about reducing your stress, and that's very stressful. So often we compound the stress by, just trying to, not acknowledge it or pretend like it's not there or something like that. Or, we're like just so upset that we want to do all these things and we can't. The other approach is to acknowledge that it's natural to just have desires, and it's natural. However you are is natural. You're just a product of your biology and your environment. And, it's basically a philosophy where you don't try to change anything. And that's very counterintuitive because, we try to change something. If you're reading self-help, you're probably trying to change something. I'm always trying to change something. I'm trying to become better or improve at something. And so I'm not saying that that's bad. What I am saying is that you kind of want to step away from it and not take it too seriously and say, okay, yeah, I see. I'm trying to become better. And then you say, is this really that important? Like, does it really matter that much? And the answer is always no, but this is what I want. This is what I desire. And you just say, okay, you go along with it. And so like, if you're having anxiety, in Zen, they would say, if you're it's perfectly okay. If you want to have anxiety, then that's fine. If you like anxiety, or even if you don't, like, anxiety, it's possible to even like the stress, right? If you're someone who likes, you could like it. So it's not even that bad. So but it's basically like you want to just step back from it and kind of put it into perspective, right? You realize if you're stressed about something or upset, you have to realize that it's natural, and don't necessarily don't necessarily try to change anything. So that's why it's a little complex, because a lot of it is counterintuitive. Because then, let's say, for example, if you try not to change something, then you're also trying to control an outcome, right? And the biggest aspect of Zen is to not control outcomes, right? So you don't. The less you control the outcome, or the more you're comfortable with not controlling the outcome, the more at peace you're going to have. You're just kind of like a stream. You're just being pushed by the stream, and you're allowing it to go in whatever direction you want, whatever direction it takes you. Whereas if we're going to contrast that to advice that other people are giving you, they're actually giving you the opposite advice. They're telling you, no, you can control everything. And your mind is so powerful that you can just do whatever you want. So you have to start thinking and controlling and, desiring to not be stressful. You just put your mind to it and you'll get it done. Whereas, as something in Zen would say, try to be more stressed, maybe. If something is stressing you, take it to the limit, right? See if you could become more stressed. And the answer is often no. If you try to, if you try to become more stressed, it doesn't necessarily work. Why? Because just trying to control something, it's a very bad strategy when you're trying to change your mental state. That's the bottom line. And that's why it's complex. And what I do is, if I want to try to reduce stress, I honestly just, I either like to meditate or, and my meditation is just sitting down or just taking a walk and saying, like, there's nothing I have to do right now. I'm just going to, like, whatever, take a walk and stare into oblivion or something. Instead of being like, I got to do 100 things and I can't take this walk because then I'm going to be, more stressed out and I'm not going to get all these things done. And I don't live my life that way. I say, okay, if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. I try to do as much as I can. And, with living a decently enjoyable life, and whatever I can do, I can do. So I don't try to control anything. I don't try to control my success. I don't try to, and again, if I do try to control it, then I try to control it. I don't try to control whether I control it either. So that's why it's a little complex. It's kind of like, that's a lot of what meditation is, you start thinking of something and then you say, wait a second, step back. This is like mindfulness meditation. You step back and say, wait a second, you're just trying to get like a third party perspective. And so there's different strategies for that. There's mindfulness. There's like something called dying on purpose. You know, for example, what would happen if you just died? Basically, all your problems would go away. You know, and there's, for example, you know, being okay with dying is another tool people use. Why? Because the worst that can come of anything is that you're dead. And you know, that might sound gruesome, but it's basically the same thing. It's the same situation that happened before you were born. It was just, you know, there was nothing. And it's not that bad. You know, we think that when we die, we get locked up in a dark room forever, as Alan Watts says. And that's not the case. So there's a few strategies that you can use, but again, you have to get the full picture of what the point is. And the point is it's just trying to get you 1 foot out of the door of life and trying to put it into perspective, right? What I like to do sometimes is I do this for enjoyment purposes. If I'm stressed out, I'll listen to Alan Watts, because it's not that I'll learn anything so much as just, you know, I enjoy the you know, him saying something like, you know, just the way he phrases things is very entertaining, and it just puts things into perspective. And we lose perspective all the time if you're engaged in something. And something that's very important as well is, you know, Zen, like in Buddhism, they'll say, don't become attached to anything. In Zen, they'll say that attachment is fine. You know, if that's what you're doing, then that's what you're doing. Don't try to control that either. And then you get this conflict where you're, you know, because, for example, if you're trying to become attached to something, whatever it is, or if you're getting engrossed in something, then you're saying, I shouldn't get attached, I should stop. And then you're trying to control the outcome. Whereas what I do, for example, is, you know, I'll just notice that I'm being attached, and I'll say, well, you know, I'm fine. You know, I'll be attached. And then at other points, I feel better just being detached and, you know, let's say meditating or something, or just, you know, zoning out. So that's my general approach. And I'm not saying that, you know, I can only say from my own perspective what works the best for me. And that's what is most natural for me. It's when you stop trying to, you know, again, like I have goals, but, you know, once upon a time I thought my goals were my life. Whereas now it's just like, okay, whatever, it's a goal. You know, I don't accomplish it. It's not a big deal. It's just taking a step back and realizing that nothing is that important. Our consciousness is very tricky, and it can make you engrossed and attached, and you know, that we're just, it's all just insignificant at the end of the day. We're, you know, this tiny organism in a large world. You know, we're an individual in this species within an organism on a relatively small rock in the solar system, and on a relatively small star in a relatively small galaxy. And, you know, so if you take like a broader perspective, you start to see like, wait a second, it's not so important, but we see it as important, and that's fine. So that's my approach. I listen to Alan Watts, and before him, I like John Kabat-Zinn, but now for the past few years, I've just been listening to Alan Watts' music videos, and I find it entertaining, relaxing, and, you know, just even in that moment, he's putting you into perspective of things, And I always, it's surprising because even to this day, I learn new slight insights. And, there's nothing new, but it's just, it's a new way of thinking about something, slightly different way of thinking about something that isn't going to change anything significant, but it's just enjoyable for me. So that's what I do. Meditation, mindfulness, and my own mindfulness. It's not a deliberate strategy. It's just trying to be aware that whatever is causing you the stress isn't that important. And over time, it took me 10 years, more. I mean, again, it just over time, you kind of gain more and more perspective about what you're like, what your natural tendencies are. And you don't try to control it. You, at least not through your mind. You can try to control it through physiology. I'm a big fan of that. So if you take a certain supplement or you reduce inflammation, that's going to have a massive effect. But even when I was getting better, I found adopting the philosophy was very important, even just in implementing things. Like if I did get inflammation, I would notice it better because I wasn't striving as much, I guess. And my nervous system wasn't as active. And so I noticed, it's like, whoa, okay, this is a big hit because I was able to tone my nervous system down. So yeah, and when you do these things, meditation, mindfulness, your ego starts to naturally decline because your ego gets a lot higher when you're kind of absorbed in your own reality. And if you're able to just get out of that reality, then, you're able to tolerate things more. So, if people, let's say, insult me, and people are insulting you all the time, I don't get very offended, right? And again, it's because I'm constantly trying to, I get into things as well, and I like it. And then I have my moments where I take a step back. So I think it's a long journey. It's more like just trying to be aware of what's going on, what are your conflicting desires, and accepting your nature and not trying to control it, at least not with, mind hacks or anything like that. It's kind of accepting where you are or where you are. And, acceptance is a big thing. We don't like to accept. So that's what I do. And I don't, for some people it works very well. And for other people, again, if it doesn't, like if you want to strive, then go strive and see how you feel, right? If you're happier that way, then go for it. But yeah, I mean, we're all built to strive. So I accept that as part of, my personality. And I also accept that I have all these conflicting desires, and that's okay. And sometimes you're just going to be stressed, and that's fine as well. It's not the worst thing in the world. But what you do want to watch out for is if you're chronically stressed, if you're just stressed all the time, then, it means you're taking life way too seriously. Either that or you're having a lot of inflammation. But even when I was having inflammation, I was able to reduce the stress levels. And so I wasn't stressed, but I had a lot of inflammation. So I think, I think you could reduce the stress even if you're having inflammation. I definitely reduced the anxiety a lot. Okay. That was a very long rant, but I thought it's important that we have one call where I discussed what my strategies were for combating stress. I think it's important. How many grams of honey do I consume a day? Probably about 35, 40 grams. In your opinion, what's the best treatment for OCD? So number one is, like I just said, like I just spoke about for a bit, Zen, I think is good for any kind of stress or anxiety, but you want to do inositol, NAC, CBD oil should be good, a lot of butyrate, resistant starch, reducing glutamate, tianeptine is something you want to speak to your doctor about. And if you need help with pharmaceuticals, just some pharmaceuticals, but there's actually more natural treatments. If you're getting inflammation, you want to reduce that, of course. But yeah, so if it's a more complex case, I would put in the group consult. Can pregnenolone cause hair loss for males? I don't know of any studies that would say that. However, if it's going to convert to testosterone, or even, if it's going to convert to testosterone, or maybe even too much estrogen, there is something about estrogen and hair loss. I have to just refresh it a bit, but if it's going to convert to testosterone, that's fine. If it's going to convert to DHT, then that's going to be problematic. But then you could take DHT inhibitors. Again, it depends. If too much cortisol is also a bit of a problem. So it could convert into a lot of things. But in general, I don't think it should if you're doing it shouldn't be a problem if you're doing other things. And the pregnenolone itself is not a problem to my knowledge. You think soluble fiber is important for overall health? Definitely. And I recommend Hymase. What sources do you recommend? Okay. I'm wondering your thoughts about a medication called fluvoxamine for obsessional worrying. In spite of meditating and taking good care of myself, I still find myself worrying about things quite a lot. Being self-absorbed and ruminative. Okay, this is an example of, being lost in oneself and not taking a step back. But it seems like there's a definitely strong physiological component here, and this is not something you just want to necessarily go Zen on. My genes predispose me to this as well. Would like to take medication, but worry about its effects on my health and brain. So I haven't done that much research on fluvoxamine. Let me see what the mechanism of action is. So it's an SSRI. It's okay. It's a sigma-1 receptor agonist. This is usually not good if it's got a black box warning. Does it have other interactions? You want to look at the side effects and see. So DHEA and pregnenolone are going to activate this same sigma receptor, which is interesting. And okay. It's something that I would say is probably, if all it's doing, it's probably an interesting, it's something that I would, try with your doctor's recommendation as a last resort. Meaning if you tried there's some more antidepressants that I would try first, but if those don't work, this is something, and the side effect profile wasn't that big, something I would try. What's your opinion on LDN? I tried LDN for fibro pain, but my pain got worse. You know why? LDN is good. In general, it's good for decreasing inflammation. It's good for fibromyalgia. But in your case, I'm not sure why your pain got worse. Maybe you were taking too much. I would take a lower dosage. Wondering your thoughts about this test. Read that if your peroxide levels are high, you'd want to reduce antioxidants. I'm not sure why that would be the case. I don't necessarily agree with that. Not sure I understand, but seems like a good thing to know. The Pharmazine mitochondrial plan, sore plasma peroxidase. I haven't seen studies on it. Okay, so it measures mitochondrial superoxide. So it's a good test if they measure that accurately. It's not something that I would take first. I mean, it depends what issues you had, but it's something that I wouldn't test. It wouldn't be one of the first things to test. Definitely not. Be much later on. Probably never, but you know, if you're someone who likes to test a lot, mitochondrial superoxide is not a bad thing to test. If one has symptoms that indicate too long time overactivation of the kappa opioid receptors, as a KOR downregulation is likely, how can one normalize epigenetically? I have a post on the opioid receptors. You want to look at that. That's what I would suggest. Do you know anything about amantadine for CFS? Not enough that I'm going to get into it now, but I've heard of that for CFS. Let me see the mechanisms. The truth is that fluvoxamine and amantadine, I should really write that down. You know, we might make posts on it if at some point in the future. Mechanism of action. This is for influenza, Parkinson's. It's dopaminergic, noradrenergic, and serotonergic. Blocks NMDA receptors. Seems to raise beta endorphins. Okay. I wouldn't want to take anything that is a nicotinic alpha-7 antagonist or an anticholinergic. So they bind to the sigma-1 receptor as well. Okay. I wouldn't use that drug for CFS. No. There's going to be better ones, I think. You don't want to block that receptor. And also, I guess a weak NMDA receptor antagonist is not too terrible, but there's better ways to increase dopamine and norepinephrine if that's what you're after without this stuff. You know, with CFS, it might help to increase dopamine, norepinephrine, and block the NMDA receptor, but I think there's better mechanisms that you want to hit. So the answer is I would not recommend amantadine for CFS unless your doctor tells you to take it. PDE4 inhibitors are good to increase cyclic AMP levels. That's true. Try artichoke extract, but you get anxiety. Okay. Might be because it contains a COMT inhibitors. It's, you know, possible. It's not a bad theory. Are you using any PDE4 inhibitors yourself? I'll take sclerotium once in a while. Ibutylast is a good PDE4 inhibitor. I've tried that. So that's, if you wanted a real PDE4 inhibitor, Ibutylast is going to be the best. And, or sclerotium, yeah, that's actually, yeah, that's the one, scaletium, not scler, yeah, scaletium is going to be the best natural one, probably. You don't really absorb luteolin and quercetin that well, and you're not getting that much in artichoke extract. I don't think artichoke extract is really inhibiting PDE4. So I wouldn't use those. Wondering your thoughts about the oil Dr. Gundry recommended called Perillo oil. Sounds great, rich in ALA, rosmarinic acid. Do you recommend it? If so, can you recommend the brand? Let's see the fatty acid profile of it. Perillo oil. Okay. It's going to have saturated fat, palmitic acid, stearic acid, and oleic acid. Alpha-linolenic acid. So it's rich in alpha-linolenic acid, like you said. Yeah, I think it's good. It's probably going to oxidize very easily, so you want to be careful about that, but it should be okay. Yeah. I don't have a brand. No. In last month's webinar, you suggested that my weight gain, feeling of coldness, had to do with limbic system derangement, and I need to do circadian rhythm training. Can you clarify what is involved with both? So we do have resources, some free resources on the website, circadian rhythm resources, and then there's we do have the sleep book. In terms of the limbic system derangement, I spoke about that a bit. Can you clarify what is involved with both? Okay, I spoke about that before. Not sure how to address limbic system issues. Also, with regards to circadian rhythm training, I get about 5 minutes of sunny hitting retina first thing in the morning and some daylight sun when possible. You use a UVB lamp. What else is involved in entrainment? Any thoughts about the human charger in the morning if not able to get morning sun? I'm not familiar with the human charger. I recently purchased a full spectrum sauna, which I believe to be low EMF. It turns out that when it was measured, it was higher. I'm planning on returning it, but was wondering if you have any recommendations for a good sauna that is at least good in the far infrared range. I can get near infrared from my Juve, probably better than the sauna. So I want to focus mostly on far infrared. I wouldn't worry about the EMFs in the sauna. I measured them as well. You're going to get more EMFs from like a computer or something. I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah. It's not the high frequency like the cell phones. I just wouldn't worry about it. I've got my genes uploaded to Self-Decode and got information about them. I saw your webinars on YouTube, but couldn't find the answers to the following basic questions. What is a gene? Why is a gene potentially bad? How will it hurt me? What's the risk? These are more for Self-Decode webinar questions when they have a Self-Decode webinar. But I can answer some. You know what? A lot of people are not going to know what I'm talking about, so I'm just going to skip it over. I have neuropathic pain in legs and feet for about 2 years. This problem probably started when taking caprylic acid. I don't think it caused it, but okay. I read conventional antifungal can cause some peripheral neuropathy. Maybe if you have a fungal infection, okay, possibly. I don't think so still though. And another option could be overactive glutamate. What is your advice for natural NMDA agonists? You mean antagonists besides magnesium? How much should you take? So if you want natural NMDA antagonists, there's some natural ways to reduce glutamate, like NAC, inositol. You want to focus on, let's see, maybe theanine. Again, there's actually different studies for theanine. It's contradictory sometimes. But the natural NMDA antagonists, oh, yeah, so zinc and lithium are good. Those two are going to be natural NMDA antagonists. Intestinal tests show I have fungi, probably Aspergillus. Is it wise to take digestive enzymes or other supplements that contain Aspergillus? I'm a little skeptical of that, but some people say they don't do well if they have a fungal problem. So try it out and see how you feel. With regards to protein intake, I'm quite confused. Just so people know, we aren't going to be able to get to the group consults. So we'll just be able to, we can do it the next time. Again, we have to see how many questions there are. As far as Jenny's question, your old membership plan is grandfathered in as far as the number of uploads. Exactly. So, if you've got a ton of uploads, if you've got 3 uploads, you're going to be paying at the current rate $180. Whereas the other plan is going to be cheaper. If you've got 1 upload, then the current plan is going to be cheaper, and I would recommend switching. You get $60 per year, and you're going to get. And since we're constantly making changes, you're going to get the updates that we have in 3 months. You're going to get it. It's not like a static PDF like the other companies. They charge you anywhere between, I've seen $50 to $500, and you get the static PDF that doesn't change. We have a software that's constantly being updated, and so you're always getting the new updates a month later, 2 months later, up to 12 months later. So the 60, we did it that way. If you want unlimited uploads, then it's $99 per month. That's the professional plan. It's a lot more expensive than what we had. So a lot of people had questions about the pricing for Self-Decode. There are a few people that may have done better with the new pricing, and that's just what happens. The pricing changes. We want to kind of cater to everyone, and we realize that people are uploading 5 files. They're getting a lot more usage out of it, so they're going to be on the $99 plan. But we don't. Generally the way we do it is if you pay cheaper for something, you're going to get that cheaper rate. And if if you're in a position where, let's say, you're paying $19 a month for more than 3 months, let's say 4 months, and you only have 1 upload, then it's going to make more sense to get the yearly plan. So it's up to you. It's protein intake. I'm quite confused. I generally follow a low-carb diet, moderate protein, high-fat diet. And try to ingest about 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. That comes out to about 50 grams of protein per day. Okay, probably want more protein than 50 grams per day, unless you're doing some anti-aging stuff. Moderate protein. I've also read that one should ingest a much higher amount, more like 2 grams per kilogram of lean body mass. Eating sufficient protein will lead to a reduction of pounds and downregulate metabolism. I think it's going to upregulate metabolism. It's a mistake there. It is quite okay to eat more protein than the amount given in the chart, up to 3 grams. Okay. So what's the question? Wondering if it makes sense to get my lean body mass measured, or if I can just figure out the calculations using my weight. They usually say like 1 gram per, let's say 1 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. And so 1 gram is going to be on the lower side. It's up to you though. You want to experiment with that range. So 1.5 grams and up to 2 grams. And I think that's your total weight. I don't think that's only your lean muscle mass, to my knowledge. I do very well with keto. Let me see something. Okay. I do very well with keto, but my libido goes down. Do you know how to solve this problem? That is a problem, and do I know how to solve it? I think libido. I think libido does better when you eat carbs, right? And keto obviously is very low carb. I don't have any advice right now for you. One of my clients has several side effects from Accutane. It's very common. Do you have any recommendations for someone in his situation? Honestly, it's something I need to research, but I've had a lot of clients with Accutane problems. Not a lot, but definitely maybe like a handful. And you know, they have a lot of the same side effects as, a lot of people who are getting inflammation. If I had to, I would need to see their case to see, like, I would do it based on the symptoms. Accutane has a bunch of effects in the body, genetic changes. I would say the best bet is a lot of butyrate, resistant starch and a lot of butyrate, but in general, a lot of the things that are going to be good for other people are going to be good for Accutane people, but it seems like a lot of the people with Accutane have tougher problems, like more longer term. I haven't followed up with them too long term though, so I'm not sure. Is it possible to code this page to allow for paragraph spacing? It will make long posts easier to read. Be sure to add the postpartum article. Pumping anxiety. For working best friends' moms. Supply hacks. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean. So let's see, suggest a post. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna look at your post suggestions. If you put it in there. I would love a dream hacking. Oh, breastfeeding. Okay. What does that mean? Pumping anxiety. I'm not sure what this means. I would love a dream hacking article. Yes, I know how unimportant seeming this may be, especially compared to the heavy topics you and your team take on. However, during lucid dreaming, we were able to bring through a level of creativity. Dream hacking, I mean, the best thing for dream hacking is acetylcholine supplements, but I'm sure you know that. Thomas Edison, okay. So Thomas Edison used it for inventions, information on dream recall, red light, on dream vividness, gut bacteria. The other thing is butyrate. Just coming to mind, butyrate and acetylcholine. It's going to be a tough article to write, so it's something that I'd have to write, and I'd have to find the time to do it. So I don't know if we could do that in the short term, but we will get to it. Also, what are your top 5 hacks for cancer people? I think Honokio, curcumin, CBD, THC, and medicinal, like reishi, yeah. Also beta glucans from nutritional yeast. Oh, pumping from breastfeeding. Okay. Yeah, okay. That's also going to be a tough article. The coding stuff will do. Okay, next. I recently had my ferritin levels checked, and they were extremely high. 138. That's not extremely high. I wouldn't worry about that. 40 to 60 is probably a bit low. So you're probably doing better. What's your take on oxygen ozone therapy as well? Negative ion generator scam or worth? They're not scams. There's science on all 3 of them. It depends on your issues. The DIY hyperbaric oxygen chamber, if you can do it well, good luck. It's something that I wouldn't want to mess around with though, but again, if you do it really well, then I guess it's fine. Possibly settling for an ozone generator, but I keep on finding conflicting information stating that they are dangerous or miraculous. I don't think they're as miraculous as people are claiming they are, but if you do it right, I don't think they're dangerous either. I don't think this is the issue, but I think they don't believe in this stuff. Okay. And that's pretty much it. All right. We went over a half hour on this one, but we'll try to get to the group consults next time if we can. So thanks everybody, and I hope you liked the video. Sorry if we went too much overboard too much on the stress, but I figured I should at least discuss it once. And if people want to hear more, I could talk about it more, but that's something that you guys can ask about. Okay, so it was great talking to you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.